Greetings to each and every one of you. I hope today finds you well. I would just like to mention the fact that you have the opportunity to donate through Patreon if you would like. If you can appreciate these and you listen to them on a regular basis and you have the heart to be able to donate maybe $1 an episode, $3, $4 a month with 4 episodes coming out. We attempt to launch one every Sunday morning, and that would be very much appreciated. If not, that's very much understood, and I encourage you to keep listening. Please subscribe. Share with other people this podcast, so if you're getting something out of it, they may possibly get something out of it. Give it a thumbs up. You could hit up the comment sections to let me know what you appreciate, and we can see how we can go forward in more episodes to be able to accommodate the people that are listening. To donate, simple enough, just hit the description. It will take you into a Patreon account. It is Patreon, Catch It, A New Perception. That is all one word. And enjoy the podcast. Enjoy each episode. Welcome back to the podcast. I hope today finds you well. I hope that you get everything you need from the world and the people around you today. I was thinking about how our subconscious works and how we find the terminology sometimes at a young age that we adapt to, that we learn to use, whether that's good or not so good. I think about my mom telling me I did not speak a word until I was 3 years old. I do not have a lot of early childhood memory. Chances are some of that comes from some violence that was bestowed upon me. Not in my home. My parents were both very loving people. In their own way, to the best of their ability. They always did their best as parents, and I really appreciate that, and I always tried to convey that to them to the best of my ability today. That the love is appreciated, that the effort and everything that they did as good parents. And so with lack of memory of a lot of childhood things, I do remember a few. And like I said, my mom said I didn't speak until I was 3. I don't remember anything back that age, 3, 5 years old, don't remember much. When I was almost 10 was when I finished working with a speech therapist. So I worked with a speech therapist until I was finished with 2nd grade, I believe it was. And I was about to turn 10. And through that, there's many things looking back that probably have impacted my life. The fact that I didn't say a word until I was 3, I work with a speech therapist till I'm 10, and today I am doing a podcast that is all audio, all vocal. Up to this point, just me. Now, I could have been defeated by that and believed people when they said things that were derogatory about not being able to speak well, having difficulty learning a first language in some fashion. I could have believed things that were said, or I could have believed other things that were said, good or not so good. And I say that because I don't know that I want to judge the difference between good and bad today. So I try to soften it for my own subconscious. And learning at a young age what it was people were saying to me. I remember being on the playground, in school, in class, whatever it is, probably about 11 years old. And some girl in class who some of the kids probably thought she was kind of cute and conveyed that to her. made a list of all the cute boys in class and started with the cutest and to the least cute boy. And I made the bottom of the list. And my memory tells me that I wanted to believe that she was jealous. Like something didn't make sense. And yet, somehow, subconsciously, I believe I bought into what she was saying. That everyone's better looking than I am. And when you're 10, 11, 12 years old, how you look might be a big deal to someone. Especially when you don't have the internal things to make you feel good about yourself. You look for external things to make you feel good about yourself. And sometimes we still have a tendency to do that. As one woman I love very much would say, when you look good, you feel good. So she does her very best every day today to look as good as she can because it makes her feel good. If she physically looks good, she believes that she can conquer the world. There's something to that. She's putting something in her subconscious, she's taking action towards it, and then she's going to make it happen so she feels good about who she is and what she does and how she shows up. That's pretty cool stuff. How do we do that today? What happened when I was a kid when she did that? I'm not sure of all the details and how I spiraled down, how much I believed what she had to say, that everyone in the class is better looking than I am. Did I believe everybody in the school was better looking than I? Everyone in the world? So I'm less than? Because I don't look like they do? I don't know. I don't know all the details of that, how it happened, what happened. I still remember who the girl was, so it must have been pretty impactful. And just a couple years later, probably about 3 years, I was in a class in junior high, and a teacher who possibly had the gift of sight. I wonder about some adults that were in my life when I was young and what they could see, what they knew. And she taught a class that I did pretty well in. I struggled a lot in school. And she said, right at the beginning of the school year, small class, very small. She said, it's interesting. All of the girls in this class likes this guy. And he's attracted to all the girls in the class. Well, when I hear that, I think I'm attracted to girls, and so yes, I am attracted to the girls in class because I'm attracted to girls. And she made me believe that I was attractive. I don't even know that she said good looking. I don't know that she was speaking physically. I don't know. But I remember that. I remember the classroom we were in. I remember the teacher much better than the students. I could probably remember some of the students. I remember the teacher really well. How impactful is it? What we say to kids when they're young, when they're adolescents. What do they hear, and how does it carry through their lives? You have a young kid in school who has a difficult time reading, who may try to read in class and stumbles over a word or a sentence, or in general can't read as well as the other kids in class. And people laugh. Maybe because some of the kids think he's trying to be funny. And he feels bad. He never wants to read in class again. Maybe he just never wants to read again. It's difficult. Doesn't read like others. Doesn't read as well. Maybe doesn't comprehend things. Doesn't mean that that person won't change the world. Doesn't mean that he's not a great friend. Doesn't mean that he's not more compassionate than others. Doesn't mean any of that. What if he or she that stumbled over their words reading, that you laughed at, spiraled down when they could have changed the world? She could have been something great, and all she heard was how you ridiculed her. It's hard to define all this. For each one of us to search our memories when we were young, all of the things that were said to us. What if that person overcame it and learned how to get through school and get through life without reading much? Could you imagine someone that cannot read any faster than they can speak? It's true for some people. Some people cannot read as fast as what they would speak. Some people can read amazingly faster than they could ever attempt to speak. Does this make them a certain way? Do we think down about people because they have a speech impediment? Because they don't speak as well as you think they should? Or do you sometimes feel bad that someone maybe has a little bit of an accent different than yours? Or they use a little different terminology? Do you feel bad that you don't understand them and you have to ask them to repeat themselves? You see, when we change our perception about this stuff and we try to see it from another side, it may be easier to change our perception. If we can see it, not just from their side, if we can see it from a third or fourth side, we can come from different directions to see someone else's point of view. Does it allow us to feel differently about them, about our relationship with them, about our relationship with the next people we will encounter who maybe speak with an accent? Do we try to listen to the best of our abilities so we can understand them because they speak in broken English, if it's English they're speaking? Or do you look down upon them? This is how we change our perception, is by getting a look at what our perception is presently. When you become conscious that you've maybe done those things, then you can take a step back and learn to see them differently. I have a friend of mine who likes to travel. And he travels to a country where he is learning the language. And he likes to have conversation with some of these people when they speak in his language and he speaks in their language, and both of them are trying to learn the other one's language. So he can learn more. So he can help someone learn, all at the same time. Could you imagine what it's like to be able to learn as much as the person that you're speaking with is learning at that same moment? It may be one of the greatest moments of your life. Not that you're there to teach, You're there to learn and to watch someone else experience learning as much as you are. Does your perception of all of that change? Do you laugh at someone that's attempting to read something that struggles? Do you tune them out because you think they're dumb? I'm under the impression that there are people who are dyslexic, people who have learning disabilities, people who have not necessarily spoken the same language that you have spoken, or have spoken in a broken version of that language, that have offered us something so great, and you had no idea that they had difficulties in another field. Whether that was an artist or a musician, I don't know if any of you can appreciate different types of art. Chances are, whether they're a painter or a sculptor, musician, or any other form of art that they may do, they may struggle in one fashion or another and excel in some fashion. Can you appreciate every bit of them for who they are? When you do, when you realize that someone is flawed, for lack of a better term, that's not derogatory by any means. I'm a flawed human being, and there is no derogatory feeling or statement with it when I say I am a flawed human being. It just makes me human. And I am flawed in certain ways, and there's other things that I probably excel in. Do you just want to see the things that I excel in? Or will you accept me the same when you see how flawed I am? It doesn't mean that I don't want to change the things that I'm flawed in me. It doesn't mean that I don't want to change those things. I can't use them for an excuse to stay sick and just say, well, it's just the way I am. And sometimes it truly is just the way I am, and there's not a lot I can do about it. Working with a speech therapist allowed me to be able to maybe do this podcast today. Maybe to do some of the other speaking engagements that I do, because I wouldn't be invited to do some of those public speaking engagements if I still spoke the way I once did. What about other people and you can't see what their struggles are? And then you find out. You know, some of the people I've mentored through the years, I've told them, I said, when I find out all the sick things about you, I just love you a little more. See, being flawed is being human. How do we change our perception of ourselves being flawed? How do we change our perception of others being flawed? Being kind of quirky, odd, whatever you want to use for terminology of someone who's different. And that their differences are great. So to change this perception of how we view other people, and to not have disdain for the things that may not appear to be the greatest part of them, we may have to change those thoughts about ourselves. Be able to talk about the fact that I struggle with the way that I speak, and I had to learn how to speak, and I don't have a good memory today, or I suffer from dyslexia, or I don't read well? Or do you still tell yourself, because of terminology that you heard, I can't read? Or do you realize it's, I don't read as well as I would like to? What terminology do you want on it? I wish I could be a better friend. I wish I could show up different. I wish I could use different terminology. Well, we need to take action towards doing those things. The way that we become a better friend when we want to is to take action towards being a better friend. Show up when you say you're going to. Follow through when you say that you can do something. Do it. We always continue to strive to get to know our higher self. Therefore, through this process, what we're going to do is continue to change. Tell ourselves that we can continue to change. Grab on to something new. Believe in the best in us at all times. So yes, I can do this. And although I couldn't do this before, I can do this now. And then take action towards it. Well, I don't mean to always show up late, and I don't mean to be disrespectful in that process of being late. And I'm showing other people that I don't value their time, or I don't value who they are. You know, some cultures will just say, well, that's who we are. That's possible. I know it's who I was at one point in my life. I didn't think I was being disrespectful to other people or of their time. I didn't think that at all. I just didn't know how to show up on time. I was told as a young child to be prompt is important. It's interesting when someone is running a minute or two late and they reach out and shoot me a text and say, I'm on my way, I'll be there in 2 minutes. That's rather prompt in my mind. Oh, I'm running 5 minutes late, I'll be right there. And they let you know because we have the ability today through a text or a phone call to reach out to someone and say, I'll be right there. That's prompt. In the sense that they happen to be running late and they'll show you enough respect to say, I'll be right there. I'm not right at the top of the hour, right at the bottom of the hour, exactly when I said I would be there. And you always know them to show up on time. That's being very respectful of other people's time. So we want to be respected. Do we show that respect? When we demand respect, what does it do for us? When we show respect, what does it do for us? When I was a child and someone demanded respect out of me, I looked at them. They'd raise their voice disrespectfully, look down on me, say it with disdain, and demand respect. Didn't go very far with me. And when I was a child and someone showed me respect and dignity, it went a long, long way with me. That I can respect. Someone shows me respect like they do the elders. Wow. How could I not respect someone like that? So what we're going to offer people, and what we're going to show people, and how we're going to show up, when we're going to show up, all of these things matter. To learn how to see someone the way that we want to be seen. To show them respect for their flawed nature. When it's their essence and it's who they are, and they struggle with their speech, they struggle speaking a certain language, they struggle with dyslexia or other forms of learning, maybe autism, maybe all kinds of different forms. Can we respect them for exactly who they are? And when we do that, do we respect ourselves more? Or does it start with ourselves and say, I'm flawed and I'll do the best I can, and tomorrow I'll probably do better because I'm just learning how to change this. And that is how we learn how to respect others and where they're at and who they are and how they show up. One thing is not harder than another to change if we start to layer it in, if we take the action towards it. When we take the action towards doing something different, we will begin to think different. Because of how it's been layered in our subconscious, or because of the terminology that we've used up to this point that keeps us trapped into that same way of thinking, it may be difficult at the beginning to first change that terminology, use different terminology, use a terminology that is not derogatory about ourselves or anyone else. Is the term a learning disability derogatory to you? Do you need to use different terminology so you can be free of being derogatory? Then can you take the action it will take to be able to change your mind? When we take a new action, we will think different. When we think different, we will feel different. When we feel different about ourselves, we will treat others differently. It's time to take that action. Definitely time to start thinking differently. And then when we feel different, we are beginning to get to know our higher selves. I truly believe in my life it's come from many different angles. The Creator has been good to me. My spirit guides have been so wonderful to me. They come to me at the greatest time. If you like the term angel or spirit guide, whatever terminology makes sense to you, the spirits, whatever terminology you use, I have no prejudice against. Use a terminology that works for you. If you feel like you get guidance, whether it comes directly from that mystery, from the Creator, whatever that deities is, or it comes from something in between, the energy of other people, can you take that on? Can you honor that? Can you respect that? Sometimes with certain terminology, I like to believe that I will always be able to continue to change it. And moving forward, we'll continue to explore these ideas. What we heard on the playground, what we heard in our homes, how it was derogatory, how it wasn't, how it shaped us going forward, how it still may shape us, or were we able to change some of the terminology along the way and start to shift it and never finished following through with it? Now can we follow through with that? Can we change all of the terminology we need to so that we think different? Because when we use different words, maybe that's what it will take. For me, I've gone back and I've listened to all these podcasts that have been put out up to this point, every episode of this podcast. And the biggest reason is I need to keep hearing it. I need to keep hearing it. If there is ever anything in this lifetime I am to teach, I must learn it. We learn what we teach what we learn. I hope the journey finds you well. I hope you live better today than you ever have. And my hope is that tomorrow will be greater than today. We only will measure ourselves to ourselves. So I need to look at who I once was and believe that I will be something different today than I once was. And tomorrow I will be different yet. So I still have the chance before the day is over to continue to change the way that I think, so that I will feel different. Looking forward to next time. Live in harmony with and use the bounty of the land to bring kindness to the world.